Hey everybody, what is up? Thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to be talking about a touchy subject, and that is money and mindset. And I'm going to be talking about the steps that I took to forex my business over the past year. I'm going to be talking about financially. I'm going to be talking about from the age of 22 to 32, how I bought 3 houses, how I bought 2 new cars, and how I had to approach those things and change the way that I looked at money, and change the way I looked at things, and change at myself and what I was capable of, and change the way I looked at my business and money as a whole and what it was. I'm going to be breaking it down to 3 simple steps that I think can really change anyone's steps towards obtaining more money, obtaining the things that you want, like houses, cars, growing your business. I think that this 3-step formula that I'm getting ready to go over is one way that a lot of people can do it. Specifically those who have had a consistent fear of judgment, specifically for those who have had a consistent amount of high anxiety and high stress regarding money, regarding whether you think you can get a certain amount of money. You know, so many of us have these dreams of maybe a 6-figure business, or maybe just making a consistent amount of money. Maybe you just want to make $1,000 a month in your business, right? These things turn into massive events. These things turn into these huge stories in our minds, when in actuality they are just things. You know, they're a part of the bigger puzzle. They're a part of the pie. They're a piece of the pie, right? And I'm going to be talking about right now some ways that I have implemented change in my mind, in my life, in my finances. I'm also going to be talking about how I've made a ton of mistakes with my money, and still do, and still have limiting beliefs. And I still let my fear and my anxiety and my fear of judgment of others, I still let those things affect me. But at the same time, I'm still planning on reaching my financial goals. So I have figured out a way to separate my fear of judgment of others. I've figured out a way to separate the high levels of anxiety that I have regarding money and my business, and meshing those two. I've just experienced a lot of pain regarding money. You know, I grew up, my mother and father were both entrepreneurs. They actually, neither one of them finished college, and my mother actually bought an H&R Block franchise, probably 40 years ago. Right. Well, not 40 years ago, because I'm 35 this year. So probably over 30 years ago, she bought an H&R Block franchise, and she had 2 locations that she opened up, and she worked her tail off. And she, it was cool to see her thrive and stuff, but she was miserable. She was absolutely miserable, and she made the people around her miserable. And she eventually had to sell it. My dad, he was very similar. He tried a bunch of different entrepreneur things. He was actually a photographer back in the 70s, went to Berks Institute in Santa Barbara, California, dropped out after he met my mother. And then eventually he took over my grandfather's department store after he died. And tried to build it and twist it and tried these new entrepreneurial things. because my grandfather was an entrepreneur too. He was a Palestinian refugee, and he came over from Jordan back in 1948, and he instantly just jumped into the business world over here, and he was a G. It was awesome. He just came to Virginia and in the 50s and met my grandmother and married her, 20 years older than her, and then started his own department store, and then created another location in Virginia, and it was cool. It was really cool to hear these stories growing up, but no one ever told me that those things require certain steps. Like you have to break down what it is you want in order to achieve things like that. And my mother, my father, my grandparents did not teach me this. My other grandparents were also entrepreneurs. They were millionaires by the time they died. They actually owned so much land across the country that they had assets up to $1 million. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. But nobody ever taught me how to do this. It was frustrating, especially as I got older and started to have a more entrepreneurial mindset. And it took me a long time to figure that out because I'm not in relationship with them anymore. And my grandparents have passed away. I don't speak with my parents anymore. And we and they both their businesses have failed anyways. So it may be that they just didn't discover the things that I'm getting ready to share with you. Maybe they just hustled their whole life, because that's what it felt like to me on my side, and I don't want that for you guys. And I definitely don't want it for me and my kids. I want, and my goal for you is to have a steady, growing, progressive business and life where you can feel good about the goals that you're setting and the goals that you're working towards. I mean, isn't that the whole goal of life, right? Like, we want to feel good about what we're doing at the end of the day. Doesn't matter if you're a photographer, if you're a graphic designer, if you're just an entrepreneur who likes doing business stuff, like whatever you're doing, you want to have passion and inspiration, and you don't want to feel overworked, and I think that we just lose sight sometimes of why it is we're doing what we're doing, and using that as inspiration to get there, So I'm going to be talking about, for the next few minutes, I'm going to be talking about the 3 big steps that I have taken over the past 15 years to be able to achieve the goals that I want. Okay. And they're actually really, really simple. They're a lot more simple than you think. They require effort. They require honesty. They require you. They don't require anybody else. Okay. So the steps that I'm going to give you are completely pragmatic. You can do them today. Okay. On how I was able to grow my business by 4 times over the past year, how I'm able to buy 3 houses, how I was able to buy 2 new cars, and a plethora of other little moneymaker things. These are all connected to every other entrepreneurial thing that I've done, very much so. And I have broke it down for you so you can apply it to your life. Okay. So I'm going to shut my mouth about that and tell you step number 1. So step number 1 is you basically have to ask yourself, what do you want? So what do I want? What do I want? How much money do I want to make in my business? It might be $100,000. It might be $50,000. If you're starting off, it might be, I just want to make $1,000 a month. I just want to book someone and have them pay me anything. That may be your goal. How many of those do you want? How many of those do you need in order to feel better? Okay. For me right now, my goal is to make $100,000 in my photography business. That includes my wedding photography and my education. Okay. So I do workshops. I have a community. And those right now are my educational focuses. So those are the things that I am making money on educationally. But then I also have my wedding photography business that I make money through as well. Okay, so I want to make $100,000. I'm not even close to that right now. I'm just not in this current moment. I plan on being there because what I did after I asked myself what I wanted is I broke that down into sub goals. And my sub goal one was, well, before I made my sub goal one, I had to find out, I really had to chunk that down because $100,000 is a big number and it feels elusive many times. It feels like it's bigger than it actually is. It's just $100,000 though. It's just American dollars, and it's just 100,000 of them. And it's separate from me. So I had to remember that. But then I broke it down into sub goals, right? So I was sitting there and like, damn, I want to make $100,000 in 2019. So what does that actually mean? Well, that means I had to make around $8,333.33, I think is what the number was, every month. So what does that mean that I had to make every week? Well, that means that I had to make, I don't remember what the number was. I think I have it written down somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, there it is actually. I had to make $1,923 per week. What does that mean daily? That means I had to make, it was like 270 something. Yeah, $274. I have it right back there. $274 and some odd cents every day is what I have to make. So now I have this realistic, obtainable goal, and it's chunked down. Okay, so that elusiveness of that $100,000 actually just got broken down to, okay, well, what if I focused on this week trying to focus on making that smaller amount of money? What creative ideas can I implement and put into place to start to work towards that number? Because I know that in order to get to that 100,000 up here, I know that I have to do this first, which is that I got to make $274 today. I'm going to figure that out, and then tomorrow I'm going to try it again. I'm going to figure out how to do that, and then tomorrow I'm going to try that again. And then eventually you gain the skills and the knowledge and the resources and the experiences to obtain that $100,000. And it does not happen overnight. You will not go viral. You won't get a big break. You won't make it. It requires that focusing on the present, the daily goals. Awesome. Thank you so much, Joanne, for commenting. Appreciate that. And so, that requires, so we have this unrealistic idea of $100,000, right? But then we have this realistic daily thing. So somewhere in the middle is where I've found works, right? So remembering that that's where you're working towards, but at the same time, remembering that in order to get there, you really, really have to stay focused right here, right now. Okay. And it's one of the reasons I have it written down, and I really don't care. I wrote it in purple on a crappy little notebook. I really don't care. It's there. I wrote it down. I took the energy to do it, and I'm going to work towards it. It has nothing to do with the formality of it. This is my goal, and I am going to work towards that. And I made it more realistic for myself. Okay. If I do not achieve that goal, my daily $274, I'm gonna be okay with that. I'm gonna accept it and be like, oh man, okay. Well, what do I have to do differently tomorrow to maybe achieve that goal? What do I have to do differently this week to achieve that goal? What do I have to do differently this month to achieve that goal? What do I have to do differently this year to achieve that goal? Because the only reason you don't have the money that you want, the only reason you don't have that car, the only reason you don't have that house is because you think you can't get it. You don't think you have the skills and resources and knowledge and know-how to actually work towards getting it. And that creates fear and anxiety in you. And then you start to say, I'm not enough. And then you start to tell stories in your head about how other people think you're not enough because you don't have a house and a car and money and your business isn't growing. Okay. Focus on yourself and stay balanced. Okay. When I wrote down, it's the balance of realistic and challenging. So the middle ground there of what a realistic goal is and a challenging goal is, and balancing those two somewhere in the middle. Okay. That equals the balance of feeling inspired and the balance of inspiration and the skills that you currently have. Okay. If you are like, damn, I want to make $100,000 this year, being a wedding photographer, and you haven't figured out how to expose your photos yet in camera perfectly, you might want to go take a course and gain the skills to do that on your way to $100,000. Okay. If you have no clue about the steps it takes to actually purchase a house, Google it first. That way you have a vision. That's where you get inspiration, and you're also gaining skills at the same time. You're gaining knowledge. You're gaining the steps. You're obtaining those realistic things. Okay. That is a huge, huge way to change your mind about money. Okay. And if you've studied anything about flow, that's the same thing with flow, right? The way that we get into flow in our lives, when we can get into that work where studies show that you can increase productivity, you can increase focus at least 4 times, 400% by balancing how challenged you are, which is basically how much anxiety you have, balancing that with your skill level and your inspiration level. Okay. And what meets in the middle is an increase of flow, which increases productivity, efficiency. You waste less time. It's crazy. Anyways, that's me nerding out. All right. Step number 2. So you have your goals, right? So you can do what I did and have sub goals with money, whether it be, I want to buy a $200,000 house, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths in this neighborhood. So now from that, you make a specific plan. And a plan is just the steps you need to take in order to achieve that. For me, I'll show you guys actually on my screen what my calendar looks like. So let's see here. This is one way that I'm doing it for my workshop coming up in the next month. So right here, you can actually see over on my left. Let me turn off my other stuff. You can actually see over here. I'm actually using the Google Tasks for this. This is very similar, actually, that I've found to Asana. If you use Asana, if you use Process Street, they break this stuff down. Google has it for free. This is kind of new with them. But for example, with my workshop right here, so I created a task with my workshop, and I knew that in order to get my workshop launched and fully prepared, because I've done these before, I knew that there were certain things that had to happen. So I created subtasks, and actually you can do this on the back side of a task, and I just added more and more subtasks. So that's subtask. See that? It's really, really simple. And when I'm done with it, I just come in here and I check it, and it's done. Okay. I love this feature. It's simple, it's free, and it's there every time I open up my calendar. So it reminds me that, hey, these are the tasks that you need to get done in order to have your workshop prepared and ready, right? So I still have to reserve an Airbnb. I need to put a leave request in. I need to find influencers to help promote it. Those are the things that I want to do. I've broken it down step by step in order to achieve that goal. Okay. Now, how does that look with my money, with my workshop? So with my workshop, my goal is to make $8,500 and to have at least 15 applicants, registrants, right? People that come. And I have budgeted in $2,500 to actually invest into the workshop. Also, 25% of the $8,500 will actually be donated to an organization that's helping people in my community. So I started off with those numbers, and I'm left over with these other numbers. And I'm like, okay, so that means that I will bring home this amount of money to be able to use back in my business or whatever I want with it. I can go out and buy a watch or buy clothes. I can do whatever the hell I want with it because I know that money's set aside. It's going back to me, right? I know that the $2,500 is going to go back back into the workshop. Okay. I've decided that before I've done the workshop. All right. I wrote it down. I don't know where the hell I wrote it down. It doesn't matter where I wrote it down because when you connect your brain to writing, there's lots of research that shows that you are you're kind of I guess imprinting thoughts and memories and stuff like that. So anyways, more nerdy stuff. So have a clear plan. If you want to make $1,000 this month, what are the steps that you need to take in order to achieve that? You know what they are. Trust yourself. Stop second guessing yourself. You know what they are. I remember my most successful workshop was really, really boosted when I was stuck. I guess it was last year around this time. And I was like, you know, I'd done a few workshops in 2017. No, 2016. I don't remember. It's been a while. And I only had 1, 2, 3 registrants coming. And I was like, that's great. They're getting seriously help, but I want the room full. That inspires me when people were full. So I was talking to someone and they were like, just fucking make some IG ads and promote it every damn day and stand up for it. You know, don't let fear stop you from promoting what you love doing. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. You know, and then I started promoting it. I started trying to be creative, asking people to share it, not being scared to ask for money, you know. And I started working towards getting more applicants, getting more registrants to my workshops through several different steps. And it was awesome. It was awesome to have a clear action plan in order to achieve my goal. Now, did I achieve my goal exactly? Hell no. I've yet to fill up one of my workshops, but I plan on it. I plan on figuring that out. And I'm also going to accept the fact that I don't know everything yet. Just because I help other people doesn't mean I'm expected to know everything. Just because I'm a wedding photographer and a certain amount of clients pay me this, have previously paid me this certain amount, doesn't mean I can't ask for more. It doesn't mean that I can't change my audience. It doesn't mean that I can't completely revamp something, or it even doesn't mean that I can't create a whole nother brand and charge more for it. I can do whatever I want to do in order to achieve my financial goals. I'm in charge. Okay. The bank is not in charge of your finances. Your parents aren't in charge of your finances. Your current 9-to-5 boss is not in charge of your finances. I'm definitely not in charge of your finances. I can help you with that, but I'm not in charge of yours. You have to decide what the plan is that you're going to take. And yes, what does that require? It requires you working at eliminating the fear of judgment of others. That requires you working at eliminating and when anxiety comes in, it affects how you take action. Okay. One of the big things in my life that I had around buying my first home was, oh my God, this is so big. And now I look back, the reason why in my head I thought it was so big is because the realtor made it so big. the society we live in made it so big. They're the ones who told me I should be stressed out and worried, and that if I bought a house, it would be by chance and luck, right? Because only special people who work hard can buy houses. Such bullshit. Total bullshit. The people that buy houses are the people who have a goal. They're the people who work towards that goal. And they're the people who achieve. And they don't let other people push their thoughts and feelings and emotions on them. And that's why I think, buying houses and cars, I'm so good at it because I don't let realtors and I don't let car salesmen sway me in any way. I have a vision before I go talk to them. When I bought my third house 2 years ago, I remember sitting there and the lawyer, who apparently does these probably daily, the signings. If you bought a house, what I'm talking about. There's just like this packet of paperwork that need your signature and they pass them to you. And, they understand that most people want a big show, that they want it to be a big deal. And I was sitting there and I was kind of getting impatient because he was trying to drag it out. And I was like, and he can tell I was getting irritated. I was just like, I just want to get out of here. I don't care about this, is what I was alluding to, apparently with my vibe. And he goes, you're not interested in the fluff of this, are you? And I said, no, I'm not. I just smiled. And I was so grateful that he recognized that, but I was also like, wow, Mark, congratulations. You have not allowed the structure of society. You have not allowed the emotional marketing of fear and lack to affect you. Good job. I left there and I went back to work and I continued my day. And that was it. Okay. And I did the same thing with my vehicles when I bought them. It was like, especially, my second one, it was like, I'm just going to go buy this vehicle. I'd researched it. I wanted it. I had a vision of how much I wanted to pay for it. I found it in my local area. I contacted my bank and I got an approval for exactly how much they would give me. And I was like, okay, well, this is simple. I'm just going to go and get this car. Again, they tried to make it this big dog and pony show. And I was just like, no, I just want to get this car. This is what I want, and I don't want you guys to play with me, So anyways, have a clear plan on what you want and break it down by steps. Use the Google Task thing that I just showed you. Use paper. Break it down like I did. I don't care. It doesn't matter where it is. Just let it be somewhere where you're looking at consistently. I'm in here every day. This is my bedroom. I'm in Google Calendar every day, right? So those are two places that I see it every day. I'm exposed to it. Have a clear plan. All right, step number 3. Well, you know what? Here's a bonus for step number 2. I was talking about fear, well, it's not really a bonus. It really goes with step number 3. And step number 3 is trust yourself and believe that what you want is at hand. Trust yourself and believe that the money that you want is at hand. It's coming. Okay. So many times we get paralyzed because of fear. Fear that I'm going to fail. Well, what is failure? Just not achieving this number every month? What the hell is it? Not achieving this number every month? Then that means I've failed every day because I have not yet figured out how to make $274 every single day yet. I will eventually get there. I'm going to figure it out. And I'm not scared to fail. Okay. Failures are how we learn. It's the only way we learn. I love teaching in my classroom to my art students. I love teaching them the acceptance of failure. It's one of the main skills that I teach. It's appreciating failure when it comes. It's when you're wrong, what did you learn from being wrong, right? What did you learn from trying something and it not working? What are you going to do differently the next time to make sure that it does work? Okay. And so here's probably the most pragmatic step that I have taken in order to forex my business, in order to buy 3 houses, in order to buy 2 new cars, and in order to see money differently. It is when I feel an extreme amount of fear around something like buying a house or buying a car or growing my business or quitting my 9-to-5 job. When I have that fear, I recognize it as fear and say, man, I'm really scared of this. And then I make the decision to actually do that thing that I'm scared of. Every single time that I've bought all 3 of my houses, I've felt one of the most extreme amounts of fear in my life. Every single time I've bought the 2 cars, I've felt high amounts of fear and anxiety. And all of those times I have still done the thing that I knew that I needed to do in order to buy a house, in order to buy a car. I separated my fear from my goals. My fear was fear over here. And then I was like, oh, that's fear. I feel that. It's understandable that I have that. This is something that society has asked me to feel. And I know that's subconsciously somewhere else. I'm going to deal with that. But that's different than the fact that I have certain goals. Okay. There's nothing about anxiety connected to these numbers. These are just numbers. They're just numbers. And they're just paper dollars in a bank. That's all it is. And the car outside is really just metal and glass and plastic and some rubber. That's all it really is. Okay, so separating, stating facts and separating it from your goals helps kind of bring down attainability, and it helps you kind of breathe. I do this thing. One of my favorite visualizations and activities to actually, I will physically raise my chin up and see myself when I feel like I'm drowning in fear and anxiety. I'll actually see myself raising my head out of out of a pool of water and just breathing freely, and I visualize myself coming up with ideas right there in that moment, understanding that, yes, in one moment I feel like I may be drowning in anxiety and fear and, oh my God, how is this going to happen? But in the other moment, knowing that because of the things that I've been through, because of the skills that I have, because of all the evidence of all the people that I've helped do the same thing, because of these things, I know that I'm able to achieve my goals, whether it's financial or material or personal. I can achieve them apart from the fact that I have fear and anxiety. And that requires just simply showing up. What's an example of showing up? Going to the car dealership and test driving the car that you want. No strings attached, right? There is no money required. It requires you getting up on a Saturday morning, driving probably 10, 15, 20 minutes somewhere and asking to do a test drive. What is it required to you to show up and trust yourself when you're buying a house? Contact a realtor or go on Zillow and try to find your dream home and then go look at it. There is no money required and very, very little energy required in those things. But is it not an important step to do in order to achieve buying a car, buying a house? Will it not give you inspiration to be in the thing that you want? Will it not give you a more clear vision on why you want that thing? Does it not take this much effort and energy to do that and take the first step and show up? I challenge you to do that. I challenge you to, whatever it is that you're scared about, whether it's making $100,000, whether it's trying to book more clients in your photography business, whether it's trying to buy your first car or buy your first house or buy your next level one, just show up and do what you think needs to get done. And I promise you that anxiety and that fear will start to diminish. It may just be by 10%, but isn't that better than what I call paralysis of the mind, which you can't do anything. That's where you know you want something, like $100,000 right here. You know you want something, but it seems too big for you even to take the first step. I love what Gary Vaynerchuk says. He says 1 is always better than 0. And I've explained this before, but we have this, this is like 100. This is what one, maybe it's $100,000. And what we do is we focus on, oh my God, that is so big and that's so far away. And we forget, we're still at 0. And in between 0 and 100 is also step 1, step 2, step 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. And as you take those small steps, you finally, eventually, easily, very, very easily, with little effort, make your way to 100. Our problem is we focus on the 100 constantly rather than 1, 2, 3, 4. So show up at 1, show up at 2, show up at 3, show up at 4, show up at those steps first. And I promise you, your fear and anxiety is going to start to diminish. I promise you, you're going to start to reach your financial goals. I promise you, your business is going to grow. I promise you, your relationships are going to get better. It's not something I've talked about yet, but one of the big challenges in my life has been relationships. When I applied this into my relationships, when I applied this into how I connect with my son and my daughter and how I connect with my partners, when I applied that to those things, I started feeling less anxiety and fear and stress around having relationships, which stopped me from having relationships in the past. I told myself the story that I'm not lovable. I am not good enough. There's no one right for me. My kids don't like me because of this, this, and this. I said, okay, I feel that way, but this is actually what I want to be in those people's lives. And I'm going to start taking the steps to work towards being that person for them and myself. And I did. And it's changed everything. Okay. So this can be applied to your relationships, your finances, your business, your personal life, your exercise, your diet, your meditation. Just show up. I was just listening to a podcast yesterday with Lewis Howes, and I forget the dude that he was interviewing, but he was talking about habits. And one of the quickest ways to change and build new habits is to simply show up. And he means it quite literally in that he was working with someone, and he actually made a plan for this person because they wanted to lose weight, is what he was working with them with. And when we in January, we're all usually like, all right, well, let me make that new New Year's resolution. I'm going to lose this amount of weight, and there's crazy amount of statistics about how that fails, right? Why? Because people are focused on the fucking 100 rather than step 1. Okay, so what he did, he said, you know what? You're going to go to the gym every day, every single day. He helped him made a plan. Every single day, you're going to go to the gym, and you're only going to stay for 5 minutes. And he said what that did is, because you just showed up, it created room for you to start to develop a new healthy lifestyle and a healthy habit. That way, you got used to showing up and doing something you didn't really want to do in the first place, but you knew you had a goal. So making that first small step smaller. And he did that by saying, instead of going to the gym and killing yourself for an hour, right off the bat, just go for 5 minutes. You can't not. And he said he made the guy leave after 5 minutes. It's like, you cannot stay. Do a half a workout and you're out, right? Developing new mindsets and new habits around the things you're scared of by showing up in small ways. Again, reaching out to a realtor, reaching out to a car dealership, reaching out to a partner and apologizing, reaching out to your kids and describing to them why you love being their parent, reaching out to a boss and saying, and pointing out the things that you're grateful for to them. These are things that like people are petrified of. And there are things that change lives though also. That's what I'm saying. Showing up truly separates fear from the action that is required in order for you to achieve your goals financially, material, business, relationship, personal, wellness, doesn't matter. Showing up and being there every day. And then you start to realize that anxiety and fear actually have nothing to do with you reaching your goals. It's an amazing thing. I promise you it works. And it's going to help. So thank y'all so much for commenting. If you're watching this replay, you can still comment over there and have a discussion, and we'll start chatting with you. Thank you so much, Joanne, for commenting live. Appreciate it so much. I do want to say that I have two things that I think are helpful for photographers specifically, because I know many of y'all are photographers out there and creatives, and you love making beautiful images for people, and that's what your business is surrounded with. Okay. My first thing that I want to talk about is my community. And my community is actually, you can find it at the bottom. Let me make sure. Okay, there we go. There's a button at the bottom of the screen right now in Crowdcast that you can push and go actually find out more about my community. It's called Creative Commonwealth. It's a community for photographers where we have made the decision together to move forward as an industry, and we are going to help one another without holding our secrets close to our chest, right? One of the problems that I've seen over the past 10 years in the photography industry is the silos that have been built up by the photographers who have made it, and the silos of information and education. And I don't think that's the way it's supposed to be. I believe that we all should be in a community where we openly share with each other and help one another 100% of the time, because we care about one another. And I know that's not for everyone, but if that's for you, you can click on the button down there. If that sounds cool, you can also reach out to me, and I'll be happy to chat with you a little bit more. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is my workshop that I was talking about, right? So I will put a link in there right now. So just markmann.com/workshop. And put it up there real quick. Hey. There we go. All right. So it's at the bottom of the screen now. You can click on that button at this moment, and it's going to take you to my workshop page. You're going to see reviews from my past workshops, some of the ways that I've been able to help other people. You're going to be able to see the organization that I'm going to be donating 25% of my workshop income earnings to. You're going to be able to see whether you're a good fit for the workshop or not. You're going to be able to see whether you're going to be able to see the benefits of coming to the workshop as well. So Joanne is just asking, is there a deadline for your workshop, and are there limited spots? I mean, with my workshops, there's no deadline per se. I do have a limit of 15 people though, is what I want. That's my goal, and I'm going to limit it that. And that's only because I don't think that I can serve more than 15 people in the way that I want to in 2 days. And that's because I think that the very valuable face-to-face interactions are where the big gains are. Okay, whether that's not only the face-to-face interactions with me, but also the face-to-face interactions with other people at the workshop. If you've been to a photography workshop, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You came because you came for the styled shoot and you came for the beautiful photos, but you left being like, oh my God, I cannot believe those relationships and connections that I just built. So those two things are so important. And that's why I have a limited number of 15 spots. Okay. So click on that button at the bottom of the screen if you're interested, or again, reach out to me. And I love y'all so much. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'll talk to you next week and in my future events. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Finally, if this was something that was helpful to you, I guarantee you that there's other people in your circle that this can be helpful to. Please, please, please click the share button on the screen, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, share it on Instagram, do a screenshot, tag me at Mark Meafoto, and let's spread good vibes in the photography industry and in the creative entrepreneur industry. And let's help people change our minds about how we see money, how we achieve goals, and how we obtain the things that we want in our life. Okay. Please, please, please share this stuff. It's important. It's valuable. Love you guys. Have a great day.